Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. Shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today? I don't know how to put today. There we go. Excuse me. I'll say, I'm not sure if it's a good idea or not, but I've cracked open my window a little bit, despite the fact it's winter. Like, I mean, right now it's kind of cold in the UK. Like, hold on, let's see. Temperature in a place I live. 10 degrees Celsius, so it's not like exceedingly cold. It's kind of cold. It's apparently raining. I mean, it's cloudy, isn't it? It's definitely not raining right now. Precipitation, 5%. Why has it got a rain sign? I don't know. It says it's going to be raining for most of this week. Oh, it's raining at 1 a.m. Okay, I see. Anyway, hello everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 12:16 p.m. on Saturday, December 30th, 2023. Campsite visit, okay. So I don't know if it's necessarily a good idea, but, you know, I was thinking about the fact that, like, I'd probably not open my window all that much throughout the winter months, you know, and I want to get some, like, fresh air in at the same time. But it is also cold. It's not actually that cold. I feel like I haven't enough things blocking, like, any cold draft wind from the window, to me, because, like, I mean, it's got my computer in the way, it's got literally my graphics tablet is, like, blocking as a shield right now. I should really start using this graphics tablet more as a third monitor, but I've often found I don't need a third monitor that often. I mean, right now, I don't know what I'd do with a third monitor. I mean, it'd be like, I'm playing a game, something, and I'm working on something at the same time, I suppose. Oh, that's what I was working on. You know what I was doing? So my friend was talking about it. Like, my friend makes jokes, like, in good nature jokes. Like, I'm not here to call them out or anything, because they, well, I mean, by my friend, like, obviously that's how it works, about this D&D campaign, which is meant to be starting, because we have a writing group. It's kind of been on hiatus due to holiday times, and the last one not really happening. I haven't even written a story for last time. I don't think anyone's written anything for it. Writing group's going through some, like, not interesting changes, but, like, inconsistency. Oh, let me see, my friend is messaging me. I did say, like, me and my friend, we want to play some co-op games. That's my we were here friend. I don't know if he's going to say he's not busy now, which is awkward because I'm in the middle of an Animal Crossing episode, but we'll see. No, okay. That works for me. I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, we were going to, like, restart. I was saying that we were talking about how writing group should probably restart again, I suppose, like, after New Year's, or, you know, after the holiday times. But then we were also, they made a joke being like, oh, what about D&D as well? And I was just like, you know what? Yeah, why not? Let's get the D&D thing, like, rolling again. I feel like, certainly, while I do work on things, you know, I do have many, like, irons in fire, or I try to, and sometimes it's hard to get a balance of things going. But, you know, nothing I think is more motivating for actually, like, getting a diligent work schedule going than having, like, no, I mean, a schedule is what I was going to say, but the schedule is not what I meant to say. A schedule is correct, but, like, a deadline, I suppose, on something being like, I had to work. When I know I have to do, like, this amount of work by this point, I find it easy to divvy up, I suppose. And it needs to be, like, an actual strict sort of, like, deadline, because, like, a flimsy deadline, while I can certainly work towards, it allows me, like, too much flexibility in the end. And when you're trying to do multiple things and you're trying to balance things, like, because at the end of the day, D&D is a recreational thing. The world's not going to end if I don't get this D&D campaign running. But with that, because of, like, the flexibility it sort of, like, entails, it means that sometimes I can be a bit lackadaisical about doing it. Like, I'll prioritize something else instead, which is more important, which is fair enough. But actually having, like, a set deadline, I think will make it more likely about I'll work on, like, this law planning stuff. Like, I kind of have, like, these general ideas of law. I'm just trying to, like, formalize it, which is why I'm, like, using Notion. I was learning more about Notion last night. I've got, like, a database set up of all the divine beings which can occur in this world building stage. And then I'm trying. I have, like, all these general ideas, but, like, I need to actually put them down concretely on paper, because there's no point in going in with, like, vague ideas, because that just means I'm going to be, like, improvising for, like, 3 hours straight, which is not great. I think not conducive to a fun time for all. But yeah, if you don't know what Notion is, it's basically, like, a wiki, I would say. something I tried using before, and I was like, I actually really like this, fantastic. And I was like, oh, this would be perhaps very, very good for organising a D&D campaign. I can like organise all the thoughts, all these different characters, everyone can get their own page, I can link and refer to things as I see fit. It's just a big old database. So yeah, I'm just trying to get like in the fluency of working with that, and I think if I probably work on it a little bit every single day, you know, then it'll probably be beneficial, because I have these ideas in mind. The thing is, even having these ideas is one thing. I need to actually be able to translate it, I suppose, to a campaign within the game mechanics. And it made me think, that's what I was going to do. I wanted to see what books I should end up buying, because while on the one hand I do have found access, I suppose I would say, to like a lot of the D&D books from like online downloads and that sort of thing. I don't actually know if it's still on my computer or not. I assume they must be. If they are, I don't know where they are. Dungeons and Dragons books? Yeah, Dungeons Master's Guide, EU Player's Companion. I don't know what this is. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I also don't know where this link came from. Player's Companion? Creating hero characters, okay. Monster Manual, Mordecai's, Verlos, and Xanthos. I don't know Tasha's Cauldron on here, but I was going to see on Amazon how much we sort of like D&D-esque. So I was just looking at like what's recommended on Amazon, being like, what on earth is that? Dungeons and Dragons, these books. Starter set. A core rulebook, £92. Which is nice, but I've already got the handbook. So I kind of want... What's it called? The Dungeon Master's Guide. I mean, I don't necessarily have to buy it for Amazon, I was just seeing. £25? And what's the other one? Monster Manual. £30. And then would I get the others? Maybe. I don't know. I feel like starting with a base fee makes sense, because like as addictive as it is for me to be like, oh, if I'm going to buy something, I've got to buy all the expansion things as well, like I was doing with Root like on Black Friday. It's silly to do that. It should be very much something where I'm just like, okay, you know, I'll get them as I see fit. Otherwise I can just use online resources for now, I suppose. But that set in its entirety is probably pretty good. I should probably get those. But I'll have a look afterwards to see if it's cheaper anywhere else rather than having to necessarily buy off Amazon. But we'll see. One thing I was just thinking about is I don't know why I've done the black flowers on Phoebe's island like this, instead of doing the normal thing I tried to do of not having flowers, the same flowers adjacent to each other. Maybe I tried to make it look chaotic as a symbol of death. I don't know. Definitely, hold on, death is chaotic. I don't really know what I was going on about. There's not like a deeper meaning behind that or anything. But world building's interesting. I feel like how I describe world building is like coming up with ideas, super fun, you know, just thinking about things, thinking about like these specific moments in time, but then actually having to do the world building, sit down, being like, okay, what like concrete things do I need to figure out, you know? Like, it's fun to think of like the pantheon of gods which I've like created for this world, and it's like, okay, you know, I've got like a vague idea of like what they represent and who they're and what they're going to be like and that sort of thing, but it's like, okay, so what are their sort of like relationships with each other? Like, how many other gods like will there be outside of these? Like, how do these come to be, you know? And it's just like, okay, you know, while it's fun to think of general ideas, actually putting it down onto paper, or in this case typing it down onto a digital digital paper, maybe that would have worked better with like an analogy. It's a lot harder. It's not easy to come up conceptually with a way to phrase it, or like you know, I'm writing like let's take us first deity for example, and I'm just like, okay, you know, I've got a general idea what they are. They're like they're like the leader of all the gods and that sort of thing, you know, like the Zeus head, but not actually like Zeus, because Zeus was kind of like a crazy person, to be honest. And it's like, okay, well now I need to think like what domains does this one like preside over, and like what would their actual name be, like what aliases do they come up with, like what do they represent, how do they like interact with the ongoing world. And it's like I got really like these general concepts, but actually like putting it down, like it's very difficult. Like I've filled out the tags. I've also noticed that this tag is missing a bracket sign. I've got all these tags of being like, oh yeah, this he's male, and then like stuff like this, and this is like, oh, it's but writing a profile, like the stuff I've actually got in the body of a page is just empty, and I'm not sure what to put there. But I did find actually someone made a very nice like sort of template for tabletop RPGs using Notion as well, which is super useful. I don't want to steal exactly that one, not because I'm afraid of like copyright or anything like that. They made it open to use. I mean, it's a public template, but it's just like I want me to build this up naturally, so I only put things in which I need, you know. But I am copying, like I'm referring to it and looking at stuff which I also think is useful. Or I'm just like, oh yeah, this is like a cool way to have things structured. I wonder if you could put like an automatic dice roller in Notion. Maybe there's probably like an add-on for that or something. Because what if I need to generate a random character or something like that? That'd be really cool. I could have like a separate page. So I'm just like thinking now of each of these different cities that I want, and then like on my page I can have like a random generator, which would just generate me like a random race, like name, profession, etc, etc. Okay, one thing at a time. These sort of things need to sort of build up naturally, I think, because like you know, at the start it's always bare bones, you know, while it's always like imagining what this Notion like wiki I suppose will look like at the end of a journey after I've like added everything to it. Ideally at that point it'd be like, oh, it'd be nice to have that right at the beginning, but you had to take the steps I suppose to get there in the first place, and that is not exactly the easiest thing in the world, you know. You got to do it little by little. Where was I going with this? So I should let things happen naturally. So right now, you know, obviously I'm building a database of the deities. I'll probably build a database of all like the major cities and regions, etc, etc. But then eventually it's going to be like, oh, you know, it'd be really nice to have this functionality, and then I can add it to all of them and stuff like that. Maybe it'll be more effort, but it'll be more natural, I suppose. Adding things as I need them. Which is probably the way to do things. So I'm also just looking at my phone at the same time. But yeah, I don't know what about like the world building. Like, I guess it's the same thing with writing, you know, now I think about it as well. Coming up with like these ideas of these stories that I want to write, or like stories I want to tell, it's fun. But then actually like sitting down and being like, okay, well now you need to actually write it. You need to actually choose a wording you're going to use to frame and convey the themes that you want to talk about. I'm like, how am I going to do that? Oh, oops. Mystery event. Oh well. And it's like, I don't really know. It's so much harder. But it's of course something that sort of comes naturally with time. As I always say, well, not as I always say, it was advice I've taken from somewhere, which I employ whenever I try and write things. It's just like, get literally anything down on paper. Because at least for me personally, editing something is way easier than actually starting to write something. So if you start with literally anything written down, even if it's terrible, you can come back later and change it, you know. That's the entire point of the editing and review process. But it's so much easier to have some sort of basis to work off with, rather than having nothing. Basically, don't expect perfection straight off the bat, or something like that. So I'm applying that to this Notion database I'm using as well. And in fact, maybe it could be useful to share. Well, actually, I was going to say it could be useful to share with my players as well, as like a nice wiki to reference. But the thing is, now I think about it, it would also probably contain a lot of spoilers, because I want to use it for my own benefit. Maybe I can encourage them to set up their own like Notion things from their perspective. Because the best thing about Notion is you can work collaboratively on it. So if like all the players had it, they could all share the same set of notes essentially, and they can make their own private pages, I suppose, for things that they want to hide. But they're like, oh, if they go to a new town and they're like, oh, one person remembers exactly like who this character was and what their profession was, and another character will write down stuff and be like, oh, this is what they would like to talk to, and everyone keeps track of like things that like quests to do with them, or like suspicions they have, you know, stuff like that. Collaborative world building. I mean, that's kind of like the whole point of Wiki in the first place, isn't it? It's just, I feel like it's a more modernized version of it. Sorry, a little bit of a pause. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, world building. Yeah. So I should work on it. It's just difficult sometimes, you know. Like, the easiest thing is coming up with a character, you know, a concept, like a general idea of what they need to feel. But then it's just like, oh, the details that I need to put in is just like, it's effort. And it's like, do I need to put like stat blocks in as well for these characters? I'm like, no, maybe I shouldn't think about that unless like I'm planning for them to fight these characters, which will probably not happen. You never know. And it's like, what stat block does a deity have? I've got no idea. And at some point I should probably start like consuming these D&D resources to actually like get like, I'm not saying you need it to have a good time, but it's like it's a lot easier to have a structured time, I suppose, well, or doing it being like, oh, you know, what's a good way to like sort of plan sessions or ideas or things like that. I don't know, you know, it's difficult. It's difficult, lemon difficult. But it's also something which comes with experience, isn't it? So it's not like I do it and be like, whoa, I've got no idea what's going on and I will never learn from this process whatsoever. Obviously do it when you're like, oh, okay, you know, that's something to learn, and then take that going forward, etc, etc. Sorry, now the pause. But honestly, I think at this point I'll just round this episode up anyway, because I've kind of lost track of what I was talking about. I know it's about like world building stuff. Anyway, I'll get to it. If you're that friend who's watching, then, you know, it will happen. Anyway, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewells. Until next time, bye bye for now.